evening, good morning, some places around the world, wherever you happen to be. This is Catholic Answers Live. I am Jerry Usher, in for Cy Kellett today. Always great to be filling in for Cy, who will be back on Monday. And we've got 2 hours of Catholic theology, apologetics, science, faith. We're going to be talking about a lot of things in these 2 hours today on this Friday episode of the program. So we welcome your phone calls as always. I'll just put the phone number out there for you, and then we'll spend a little bit of time with our guest this hour setting up the topic and discussing it and diving into it. But you can get on the phone now if you'd like. We're going to be talking about evolution, order within the universe, the purposeful universe. We're going to talk about faith and science and the connection between the two, and how to rationally explain to those who think that evolution is just a matter of randomness and chance and not some kind of an intelligent design or a purposeful universe, as we say. So here's the number, 888-318-7884, 888-318-7884, and you can get on and get in order on the phones right now. Our first hour guest is Dr. Daniel Keebler, a biology professor at my alma mater, Franciscan University of Steubenville, and he is the Dean of the School of Natural and Applied Science. Dr. Keebler conducts regenerative research into knee osteoarthritis and seizure disorders. He is the author of The Evolution Controversy, A Survey of Competing Theories, and the host of the newly released video by the Magis Center, The Purposeful Universe. Dan, welcome to Catholic Answers Live.
Well, thanks, Jerry. Glad to be here with you. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. In your bio there, you've done regenerative research into knee issues. I need to talk to you off the air, I think.
I'm working on that for my knees when they go.
Yeah, the knees were much better when I was at Franciscan, and we played basketball and volleyball all the time. But anyway, that's a discussion for another time. Folks, as you're listening right now, if you have questions about a proper understanding of evolution, sometimes the Catholic approach or understanding to evolution gets a little bit convoluted or misunderstood. If you're wondering how to reconcile our faith really with any notion, any sort of evolution, please give us a call. If you're looking for tools and resources to help you better understand and explain the connection between faith and science, these are all things that are fair game in this hour of the program at 888-318-7884. And what I want to start with, Dan, is just these videos that you have produced with the Magis Center. Tell our listeners briefly a snapshot of what the Magis Center is, what it does, and a little bit about these videos.
Yeah, the Magis Center, as probably a lot of the listeners know, is run by Father Spitzer, who has put out videos and books and content, particularly to help young people address a lot of issues that tend to lead them away from the faith. And he's focused a lot on science and faith issues in particular. And this new initiative, The Purposeful Universe, is going to be a series of videos that sort of address the issues that come up between science and faith. There's a lot of people that are under the illusion that modern science has shown that there's no need for God, that science can explain everything. But there's this, we want to look at the major issues. So what does science say about free will in the brain, and is that consistent with Catholic theology? What does science say about evolution, and how do we see that from a Catholic perspective? So it's trying to address all of these things, that scientific issues that people tend to struggle with, and to frame them in a way that reveals how they can be consistent with Catholic understanding of creation and purpose in the universe.
Let's talk briefly about at least the perceived conflict between science and faith. I think a lot of people think they should be able to pick up the Bible and have a 21st century rendition of creation and how everything sort of proceeded from there. But the way they recorded history was a lot different then and throughout the century. So this connection between science and faith, a lot of people see a conflict there. What say you?
Yeah, I think there's reason that the reason that people see a conflict there, I think, is because of the fact that people aren't aware of what science really does, what science is. They're not aware of the history of the church and science, and the voices that tend to get played in society are the voices, the polemic voices, the loud polemic voices that try to divorce the two. But from a Catholic perspective, there's always been this notion that God reveals himself to us, and there's two big sort of books, the book of Scripture and the book of creation, and that as you understand creation from a scientific perspective, as you investigate nature in an open and humble way, it should draw you closer to God. And that's one of the reasons the church has been one of the major benefactors of scientific research throughout the ages, and continues to support scientific research to this day. And that's something that people are often just unaware of.
Catholic Answers Live. I am Jerry Usher in for Cy Kellett today, and we are visiting with Dr. Daniel Keebler of Franciscan University of Steubenville, talking about, he's been part of a video series, Purposeful Universe, and if you've got any questions, you can get in the queue right now. We've got some people being screened already, so hurry up and get on an open phone line, 888-318-7884, 888-318-7884. If you're maybe you're a devout Catholic wondering how to reconcile faith and science and evolution and all of these things, maybe you want to know about Dr. Keebler's work and the work of the Magis Center, you can talk about that. Anything having to do with this topic, it's 888-318-7884. We'd love to have you on the program with us. A lot of people would say, Dan, that they would look at the world and say that there's no purpose, there's no intelligent design, that it's not a purposeful universe, but that we're just this cosmic accident. So how do we go about addressing that in a very reasonable way?
Yeah, I think that question comes off a lot, particularly around evolution. There's this perception that evolution is driven by chance events, and everything that happens in evolution is just sort of random and unplanned. And so humans are just some accidental twig on the evolutionary tree. And I think, one of the things that I like to stress about evolution is that evolution only works because we live in a very ordered universe, and there's order in the universe that science can describe, and that order is at every level, at the chemical level, at the physical level, at the biological level, and that order is absolutely essential for evolution to work, number one, and number two, that order helps dictate sort of the direction in that evolution goes. So there is this order that drives it, and I think that leads me, and I think a lot of people, to the question, where does that order come from? Why do we live in an ordered universe that allows for things and people like you and me and dogs and cats and so forth to exist? And I think that question is a question that comes up through scientific inquiry, but it's not a question that can be answered through scientific inquiry. So why do we live in this particular universe? Why do we find ourselves in an ordered universe? And that's one of the things that the Purposeful Universe starts to the video series tries to get at, and to see how that order, in a sense, is driving evolution and driving what we see around us in the world.
As you're talking, it makes such great sense, and I know you have done a lot of work, Dan, to come to the place where you are today, and a lot of other Catholics and non-Catholics have. I'm wondering, generally speaking, do you think people are willing to put in the hard work that is necessary, the reading, the studying, the reasoning out of things, in order to come to a proper understanding of this?
Yeah, I think it's difficult. It's also difficult to wade through all the stuff that's out there on the science and faith debates, from the origin of the universe to what the modern neuroscience says about the brain, to what science reveals about evolution and so forth. But I think it all starts, I think, with the understanding of what science can and can't do. So, and that's what gets people often into problems, where they think science can answer questions that it can't. So they think science can tell us whether or not humans have worth and value and dignity, or science can tell us whether God exists or not. So we often expect science to do things that it can't do, and so we turn to scientists to answer questions that are really philosophical questions, and that's one of the biggest issues I see out there.
Yeah, real quick before we take a break, on that note, people have to kind of bridge the gap then between science and philosophy, and that can also be a kind of an arduous journey for a lot of people.
Yeah, it can, and even as a scientist, you're trained to think with scientifically to measure things, to do experiments, and so forth. But you reach a point where you and I think all of us, by human nature, we reach those questions that science can't answer, and some people just discard those questions. Well, if science can't answer it, it's not important. But those are those ultimate metaphysical questions of why do we exist? Why is the universe the way it is? Why is there order? What are humans here for? What's the purpose of humans? What's the purpose of my life? And science can't answer those questions. It can give some information to help you get to those answers, but it's not going to answer those on its own.
Right. Well, we're going to pause momentarily here and then get to Toby in New Mexico, Tom in Columbus, and there are a couple of phone lines open here. We were talking about, sometimes it can be a little bit deep stuff, but we're trying to parse it in a way that can be very, very understandable to the average person. Maybe you've got a real deep curiosity about all of this, the questions about the proper understanding of evolution, relationship between science and faith, what the church's teaching is on all of this, how you can properly and I think very understandably explain this to people who disagree or just don't understand it. Here's the phone number, 888-318-7884, 888-318-7884. Dan, hang on, we'll get right back to you, but I want to let people know about something. I think this is very creative and very innovative. Catholic Answers is having the Black Tri-Day sale. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday sale, so they call it the Tri-Day sale. This year, things are a little bit different. Okay, a lot of different things happening with supply chain problems, mail slowdown, and a pandemic to deal with. It's a great idea to start your holiday Christmas shopping early, and you can start saving boatloads of money right now with Catholic Answers' first annual Black Tri-Day sale at shop.catholic.com. It's this Friday, today, tomorrow, and Sunday. You can save an additional 15% off already discounted prices when you use promo code BONUS15, BONUS15 at checkout. You can get ebooks, MP3s, CDs, books, of course, DVDs, even the School of Apologetics courses are discounted. Plus, we've got $5 flat rate shipping if you live in the continental U.S. So visit shop.catholic.com before the end of this weekend, and remember to use promo code BONUS15 at checkout for an extra 15% off.
Catch Catholic Answers live anytime at Catholic.com.
Underwriting for Catholic Answers Live is provided by Real Estate for Life. Real Estate for Life connects home buyers and sellers to real estate agents while supporting pro-life organizations. On the web at realestateforlife.org.
Are you a coffee drinker? If so, you can now enjoy a coffee roasted to perfection by the Carmelite monks of Wyoming. Delicious Mystic Monk coffee is roasted and prepared by monks in a hidden cloistered monastery and is available in over 25 varieties. All Mystic Monk coffees are works of perfection and labors of love. For more information on how to purchase Mystic Monk coffee, visit mysticmonkcoffee.com. That's mysticmonkcoffee.com.
Wings is the weekly newsletter that's packed with program info, features, and updates of all that's going on at the Global Catholic Network. Just go to ewtn.com/wings. Fill out your name and email address, and you'll start getting your wings every week. When you get yours, send it to all your friends, and they can send it to their friends. And pretty soon, we're covering the whole world with the good news about EWTN. Wings, the weekly newsletter from EWTN, the Global Catholic Network.
Well, there are worse ways you could be spending your Friday afternoon. I think this is one of your better choices, listening to Catholic Answers Live. I'm Jerry Usher, in for Cy Kellett today. And this hour, our guest is Dr. Daniel Keebler, a biology professor at Franciscan University of Steubenville. By the way, in the second hour, we have Beth and Edward Shree. They're going to be talking about Jesus in your marriage. Dr. Edward Shree and his wife, Beth. So stick around. We've got a great second hour coming up as well. But right now, Dan, we're going to go to the phone calls for you about the purposeful universe and biology and science and faith and evolution and all sorts of things. So please, folks, feel free to jump into the conversation. It's 888-318-7884. As I mentioned, going into the break, Toby is first in New Mexico. Hi, Toby. Welcome to Catholic Answers Live.
Hello, sir. How are you doing?
I am well, and I hope you are too.
Yes, sir. I wanted to first establish who I am and what I believe. I'm actually a Jew, and I do believe in creation. I believe in a literal six-day creation, exactly the way the Book of Genesis describes. I was wanting to know because I had heard, and actually I had read the article of Pope Francis when he was, and I don't remember the quote exactly, but he said God, something along the lines that God isn't a magician waving a magic wand, he said. And he went on to agree with that, that we could possibly have come about through evolution, that God could have used evolution to create us. And I was just wondering what the official stance is of the Catholic Church on that, because I think there's a lot of credible scientists who would agree with creation, and they can connect science and it doesn't contradict the Word of God, and that's just how I see it. I did see a really good documentary on Netflix called "Is Genesis History," which I felt was really well done. I wanted to know your opinion on both of those things, sir, if you could.
Yeah, thanks, Toby. So, in terms of the official Catholic Church position on creation and evolution, the Church doesn't have like an official position that, hey, we believe in evolution, we believe in a six-day creation account. But the Church is repeatedly, the popes have repeatedly made statements about evolution, saying that evolution is a theory worth investigating, that evolution, as far as it pertains to how the human body may have evolved, is something that the Catholics can accept. What they have said repeatedly, though, is that the human person is more than just a material being. And so the science of evolution is never going to be able to explain the totality of what a human person is, and that the human soul, which is an immaterial entity, could not have evolved. It must be created immediately by God. And I think a lot of the popes, especially some of the most recent popes, Pope Benedict and Pope John Paul II, really saw creation and evolution as sort of mutually complementary explanations for reality, in the sense that the Genesis creation account is not something that's meant to be a scientific description of history, but the Genesis creation account is meant to explain what human beings are. Human beings are made in the image and likeness of God. Human beings have a spiritual nature, are a body and a soul. They are in a specific relationship with God. They're in a specific relationship with each other. It's meant to tell us that that creation is dependent upon God. That creation doesn't come out of nothing. Creation and everything that exists is dependent on God as creator. And then evolution, the scientific theory of evolution, at least, can explain and understand biological scientific developments of how the human body may have come in to being. It's not meant to be an either or, but they both explain different aspects of what it means to be human, and there's a lot of scientific evidence, particularly in the fossil record, in terms of modern hominid fossil record of humans evolving, and different species that have been identified that are not modern humans, but are humans that have, or hominid species that are sort of intermediate between humans and other primates. And so there's a lot of evidence suggesting that the human body has evolved or changed. The human form has come into being through some evolutionary process, but that doesn't negate sort of the truths of Genesis that the Catechism talks about, and those truths that I sort of outlined, that that creation is dependent on God. Man is made in his image. We have a special relationship with God, and we're not just a material being. I think there's that beautiful image in Genesis where it says, God grabbed the dirt and breathed into the nostril made the body of man from the dirt, and then breathed life into him. And that, I think, is symbolic, is of the dual nature of man, that we are both a physical and a spiritual entity.
Well, actually, sir, I think that evolution is a very dangerous theory, and especially as a Jewish man, I believe that many dictators and different powers around the world have used evolution as an excuse to kill other human beings, and I just think it's really a faulty on the Catholic Church's behalf to even consider even toying with that. I mean, it's, to me, there's no way that it could even possibly be.
Yeah, I think that that there's many people that use scientific evidence or scientific theories, and then use them for atheistic, materialistic purposes. So they'll argue, well, evolution, shows that certain races are better than others, or things like that, and certainly can be used in that way. But that is not a scientific use of the theory. It's not a scientific understanding of the theory. So that's where I think a lot of these problems come, is understanding the difference between the science of evolution, what it shows, and then what people extrapolate from that. So people would say, well, science of evolution shows that God doesn't exist. Well, it shows nothing of the sort. In fact, the order that's needed for evolution to occur suggests that there's a source of that order, a purpose behind evolution, and that is, I think, a better and more rational, reasonable philosophical understanding of how evolution can tie in with our faith, rather than to see evolution as just sort of a random chance process that demonstrates that human beings are nothing but disposable things. So it really comes down to a sort of a better philosophical understanding of the limits of what evolution can show. And it certainly has been used, and a lot of theories can be used for bad purposes. I don't discount that.
Does that help, Toby?
Well, yes, I thank you for your answer, and I'll continue listening to these kinds of things, especially when you're talking about evolution. The sun is about to set, and I'm about ready for Shabbat. So thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
God bless you, Toby.
Thank you, Toby.
Yeah, bless you and bless your adherence to your religion there, and we pray for you. We ask God to bless you, and we ask you to pray for us as well. Catholic Answers Live, 888-318-7884. We're visiting with Dr. Daniel Keebler, a biology professor at Franciscan University of Steubenville, and we're talking about, among other things, is the universe, does it have purpose? Is it ordered? Is it random? Is it chance? If you have any questions about this at all, how to present this, how to talk about it, discuss it, maybe especially with young people who are kind of just real independent and kind of have their own ways of thinking nowadays. 888-318-7884. Next up is Tom in Columbus, Ohio. Tom, thanks for your patience. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. My question is, the universe, we know, behaves according to the rules of quantum mechanics. In quantum mechanics, the beginning is in the middle. The arrows go both ways, proceeding to infinity on both sides. How does this comport with the Catholic idea of how the universe began? Because quantum mechanics said that there was no Big Bang.
Yeah, so the Catholic Church is, for long held that the universe, as we know it, is not eternal. That the universe, on theological grounds, argues that the universe had a beginning, and I think the most modern physicists would agree with that the universe, at least our universe, has originated in the singularity event of the Big Bang, and that is it led to a process of cosmic evolution over time, where you produce stars, and those stars explode, and within them they produce the elements, and then produce planets, and therefore produce the raw material that can allow sort of evolutionary process. So you have sort of planetarium evolution creates a planet that then could have biological evolution, and that there is sort of a directionality in that process. I'm not a physicist, but that is, sort of the dominant understanding of how of cosmology, as most physicists would describe it.
Okay, Tom.
Well, as a matter of fact, physicists don't describe it as that. They don't describe there being a singularity. In quantum mechanics, there is no beginning. It progresses to infinity on either end.
Doctor, hold on one second there. We're going to get a hard break here that we have to take and let our affiliates do some local announcements and such, and we will come back. Tom, hang on the line there. We got a good conversation going between Tom in Columbus and Dr. Daniel Keebler, who is biology professor at Franciscan University of Steubenville and the dean of the School of Natural and Applied Science. Again, Tom, please stay with us. Luke is in Kansas, who will be right after that. I'm Jerry Usher in for Cy Kellett today. Great to have you with us. Please join us on the phone. 888-318-7884.
We're waiting for your call. Grab that line and get on board.
To many people, even many Christians, purgatory is a fantasy, or worse, a wicked lie invented by the church to make salvation complicated and keep people in fear. But I'm here to tell you that purgatory is fact, not fiction. The Bible supports it, Christians have historically believed in it, and it makes theological sense. In my new book, Purgatory is for Real, I provide the evidence and reasoning to help you understand this controversial doctrine and demonstrate how it's actually a joyful, hopeful reality, not something shadowy and mysterious, but a sign of God's love and mercy. To get your copy of Purgatory is for Real, visit shop.catholic.com today or ask for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Did you know you can access Catholic Answers Live right from your phone or other mobile device? Download the Catholic Answers Live app today. The Catholic Answers Live app, available now on iOS and Android.
Bishop Joseph Strickland of Tyler, Texas is one of the most courageous leaders in the church, known for his outspoken support of unborn life, Orthodox faith and morals, and reforming Catholic institutions. In his groundbreaking new book, Light and Leaven, he offers a forthright perspective on the state of the church today and calls on the lay faithful to meet its challenges boldly, touching on topics including parish renewal, the centrality of the Eucharist, the need for prayer and silence in a noisy and distracted age, and the battle between good and evil in the church and world. Bishop Strickland's wise insights and evident love for souls will inspire and edify you. To order your copy of Light and Leaven, visit shop.catholic.com today or ask for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Catholic Answers Live. It's Dr. Daniel Keebler of Franciscan University of Steubenville and having a conversation with our friend Tom in Columbus, Ohio. I know, Tom, you had the last kind of some comments there. Dan, I don't know if you want to respond to what Tom said, but you're both welcome to kind of continue this dialogue you have going.
Yeah, Tom, there is a debate. I know Stephen Hawking has put out ideas that the universe, based on its quantum, that there is no boundary point. But there's a lot of physicists that argue that there is a boundary, there is a beginning of quantum, origin of the universe, and that you can find a boundary condition where the universe had a beginning. And so there is theoretical debate about that. But I think most cosmologists think that it's, there is a way to reconcile the idea of an expanding universe in the Big Bang with a quantum understanding of the universe.
Tom, you still there?
Well, yes, I am.
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess we can debate that, but it's too long of a debate to continue on the radio. But I certainly appreciate your answer, and thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Tom. Thanks for listening to Catholic Radio there in Columbus. Always good to have all of our affiliates carrying Catholic Answers Live. We thank you for that. 888-318-7884. We're going to go next to Kansas and Luke, who is listening on the Catholic Answers Live app. Hi, Luke. You're on with Dr. Daniel Keebler.
Hi, thank you. I have a question about Adam and Eve. What you said earlier, whether they were created or evolved, that they had a soul. But I've heard both ways, that there could have just been one Adam and one Eve, or that they could have been symbolically the head of the human race, like Adam could have been symbolically the head. And I was kind of wondering how that would work either way, or if there is a official stance on that.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's quite a common question about evolution, that you think, well, how did the human race get started? And the idea of Adam and Eve and a single couple. And, modern science sort of suggests that, the amount of genetic variability in the human population suggests that humans must have arisen from a population rather than a single pair. I mean, the Catholic Church has taught, that the idea that humans have come from at least a single pair, and suggested that for years. But and the main reason that has been held is to try to hold it's hard to integrate the doctrine of original sin with the idea of Adam being the head of a group of individuals. But in Humani Generis, it talks about the idea of polygenism, the idea that humans emerged from a population, say, of 100,000 individuals, and then it's hard to reconcile that with the idea of original sin. But there are ways in which I think that theologians have tried to do that in the sense that you have a population, an ensouled population that has moral reasoning, abstract thought, and has been given sort of the preternatural gifts, and all the individuals in that population sin and fall. So then by propagation, all the descendants inherit that sort of the effects of original sin. And that type of understanding would allow for the doctrine of original sin to be there, but to also be consistent with sort of the science of genetics and the amount of genetic variability in the human population. There's other theories that you could have an individual couple, an Adam and Eve per se, that they sin and fall, and their descendants then interbreed with other individuals that maybe were not human, and that their offspring were then human. And that could bring in genetic variability into the population. But the idea is that we really don't know, and I don't think science can ever answer that question, of exactly how Adam and Eve fit into, or how the first humans came to be. What we do know, from our Catholic faith, is that we are ensouled individuals, and whoever our first parents were ensouled. They were in relationship to God, and that they, in a special relationship with God, and then fell. They rejected that the grace, and then we have all inherited that in some way through original sin. So that's sort of my take on there, and consistent with what the Catholic Church has taught.
How's that, Luke?
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Glad you're listening, and we encourage all of you who are tuned in, download the Catholic Answers Live app. It's a way that you can keep up with Catholic Answers, all of the apostolate, and especially the radio program Catholic Answers Live. Our phone number, 888-318-7884, is the number to call. Dr. Daniel Keebler is on with us here, and we are talking about the purposeful universe versus randomness or chance, intelligent design, how to reconcile all of these things. And Carson has a very, very insightful and important question in Rock Rapids, Iowa. Hi, Carson. Welcome to Catholic Answers Live.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Sure. Fire away.
I'm calling just, I'm a fifth grade science teacher, and starting here on Monday, we are having, we're diving into the topic of life science and evolution and stuff like that. So I'm looking for some tips to, bring up that conversation. And as a profound Christian, like, how do I, balance that, creation view versus evolution without confusing those young minds or influencing them because I'm in a public school?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's at a public school. That's a different. It's even harder thing to do. I think. I think one of the things that it's good to do is just to let the students know what evolution and the science of evolution can explain. And just say there's certain things that evolution can't explain, and sort of to sort of frame that this is not evolution explaining everything. I think a lot of times students get taken aback because they see in a textbook or from a teacher that evolution is going to explain everything to you, and that say, hey, look, evolution and stress, this can explain how physical things can evolve, how the physical bodies can change over time, but it doesn't necessarily explain all of what human beings are, for example. And that's not a religious statement. It's just it's a philosophical statement that I think you could get across to students at a without mentioning the word philosophy at a 5th grade level. I just having teaching at a Catholic school and having it's much easier to bring up those things and discuss sort of what the church has talked about this and see those in relationship to each other. How do you normally teach it?
Well, I don't know. It's my first year teaching, so that's why I was calling in. So I guess I was gonna do something like that, try to not go into super, great detail just because we are at a 5th grade level. But yeah, just being my first year, I don't really know how I'm going to teach it. So.
Yeah, no, I think starting with, rather than talking about human evolution, talking about other aspects of evolution, I think it's a little bit easier for students to accept and understand, and there isn't as much, I think, sort of philosophical baggage that they have to work through, with that. But yeah, it is a tricky thing, particularly at a public school.
Awesome.
All right, Carson.
Well, thank you so much for taking my questions. So.
Yeah, thank you, Carson, for being a teacher and imparting wisdom to our young minds and hearts. Thank you so much for joining us and listening to Catholic Answers Live. 1-888-318-7884 is the number, 888-318-7884. Want to bring your attention to a free ebook. Catholic Answers is wonderful about offering you free resources. One of those is a free ebook. It's been a tough year, and we want to know how best to kind of persevere and hang in there and move forward. Well, according to this free ebook, the answer is prayer, prayer, prayer. Prayer is our best weapon against evil, and you can learn more about it with a very special free ebook from Father Hugh Barber and Father Sebastian Walsh, frequently heard here on Catholic Answers Live. Just visit shop.catholic.com and download your free copy of the book, the ebook 20 Answers Prayer. You look for the button at the top of the page at shop.catholic.com. More of your calls for Dr. Daniel Keebler in just a minute.
This is Archbishop Paul Coakley, the Archdiocese of Oklahoma City, and you're listening to Catholic Answers Live.
Do you love praying for people? Have you ever wanted to use your gift of prayer to share Jesus with others and build up the body of Christ? Start a public prayer station with St. Paul Street Evangelization. Listen to people's needs, pray with them, or invite them to meet you at church. St. Paul Street Evangelization can help you get started. Find out how at streetevangelization.com. That's streetevangelization.com.
EWTN, communicating the faith.
The best way to practice not really being able to fully celebrate in other people's successes is to go to what you're grateful for in your own life. So when someone next to you is having a great success, you immediately go to, Lord, I'm so grateful. I have my health. Well, I have my husband. I'm grateful I have a roof over my head. And all of a sudden, everything becomes just perfect.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
All right, Jerry Usher here for Cy Kellett. Today I want to issue you a friendly invitation to join me and my co-host Debbie Georgianni Monday through Friday at noon Eastern on many of these same EWTN stations for Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. And if you miss the live broadcast at noon Eastern, you can always tune in at midnight Eastern if you're a night owl and catch the encore of each day's program. That's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, heard on many of these same EWTN stations. Dr. Daniel Keebler is with us this hour. He is a part of the Purposeful Universe video series from the Modges Center. We'll hear a little bit more about that and how you can get details on that before we end the program. But we want to go back to your calls. And Jeffrey is in Selma, Texas, also listening on the Catholic Answers Live app. Hi, Jeffrey. Welcome. Jeffrey, you there?
I am. Can
there
you hear
are.
Me?
We can hear you now. Go right ahead, sir.
Oh, great. So I want to say I was listening to the Jewish person that called in, and he reminded me of the Philokalia, which I think is a collection of saintly books in the Eastern Orthodox Church. And I can't recall what saint it was, but I think what he had proposed was that the center of the universe is man, and that if the God of the universe became man, that was the reason why, that the universe exists, but it is part of Satan's great lie, and that also when God created Earth, it was paradise for man. I was curious if he'd ever come across that in those books, or
Are you talking about our guest Dan or the Toby who called? Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I haven't come across this idea that space is sort of evil, and that there's this dichotomy with the Earth as a paradise. There's some people that believe that, or have this idea that before the fall, that the Earth was a paradise, and that there was no death and so forth. But there's nothing sort of in Catholic theology that we have to believe that, for example, that there was no animal death and destruction before humans came, and that humans, when humans fall, that brings death to humans and brings pain and suffering to humans, and the possibility of the ultimate pain of being separated from God from all eternity.
Okay, are you still there?
And
go ahead.
I am. And so, as I understand, though, the Philokalia is part of the Eastern Orthodox Church,
right.
So it would. I think it's a belief or a philosophy, or maybe an interpretation from some of their saints on, that this is how the universe exists, with it being solely made for man. And could that be true?
That the universe is solely made for man. I think that the church would teach that the universe, man is sort of the culmination of the universe, is the only created thing in the universe that's made in the image and likeness of God. But the idea that God creates the universe out of his own sort of generosity and his own love, and so it's created for all creatures, but we do have a special place in that, I think, would be sort of the Catholic take on man's place in creation.
All right, Jeffrey?
That definitely kind of, I think, falls in line with what I recall, or try to recall the saints saying is, we are very special in the entire creation. Mm-hmm. All things exist for.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jeffrey, for the call from Selma, Texas. Appreciate it very much. We are running short on time this hour, but we have time for a few more calls at 888-318-7884. Let's go to Willard, Ohio. Tammy, welcome to Catholic Answers Live, and you are on with Dr. Daniel Keebler. Hello.
Great, thank you. Hello.
Sure.
Yeah, I have a question. I was just flipping through the radio stations, and I came across your broadcast, and I'm a born-again Christian, and I was curious to see your take on this. Were you saying that that multiple Adams sinned? Because I was under the Bible in Genesis. It says that God created one man, and from him from his ribs he created Eve. So my question to you is, if there were multiple Adams and multiple Eves, then they would have all had to sin to bring that curse on them. So I'm curious of what you thought about that.
Great, Tammy. That's exactly right. And I'm not saying that occurred. I'm saying that's one possibility. So the idea that different Catholic theologians look at is, how do you understand human origins with keeping the doctrine of original sin intact? And that one possibility that people have looked at is the idea that you have an initial population of, say, 100 human individuals that are given the supernatural graces. And you're right. If that's the case, all of them would have to fall, in rapid succession. And it's similar. So you look at the Genesis creation story, right? Eve falls, and then Adam falls, and then now their offspring are fallen. And so, if it happens with two, could that happen with 100 individuals living together in a group? And is that possible? The church hasn't definitively said, that's not possible. That's not what it has said. Is that any understanding of human origins has to maintain the doctrine of original sin, and theologians have debated, different ideas about that for a while now. Catholic theologians. So that I hope does that what I was saying make sense then?
Well, in Genesis, as I read the account, I see it also says, from one man sin came into the world, one man it left, meaning Jesus was, the second Adam. So when I read it literal, and I believe that when Jesus, when God tells us that, one man brought sin into the world, meaning, Adam, which Adam, Eve is the one who took of the fruit, and then she went to her husband and said, here, and he had the choice to say no thank you or to take it. Then he did partake of that. And so as I read the account of the Bible, I read it very literal, and I say, God said that in the creation account, he said he created man, and from man he took the rib, and made woman. And so as I'm reading that, it's not telling me there's a bunch of Adams and he's taking a bunch of people's ribs and making a bunch of women. You know what I mean? So as I'm reading,
I'd say,
as the Bible.
And I think Right. And from a Catholic perspective, to be clear, one does not have to take it from that literal perspective. What does that mean then? It still has to be read. The Bible has to be read in its entirety. It has to be interpreted in line with church teaching. But it is not necessarily a historical description of exactly what occurred. And so that is sort of the Catholic understanding of the first few chapters of Genesis.
Something real fast. I'm a born again Christian. I'm not a part of the Catholic faith. I'm a born again Christian, but I feel like you just said that's not a historical account. But I believe that the Bible is the holy, inspired Word of God, and it is historical. That everything is God breathed, and that everything in the Scripture is exactly how it happened. There's no God's word is truth. There's, I can't give you the verse exactly where it's found, but it says God's word is truth, that there's no fault, there's no lies in the Bible. It is all true. So I guess that's what I'm saying is it is a historical account.
Yeah, the Catholic Church would argue that everything in the Bible is true, but there are different types of literature that are in the Bible, and so what is said in the Psalms is not meant to be taken literally, because there's poetic and language that's used, and symbolic language, and I think in certain cases and so you have to understand the intent of the author, the form that's being used, and that's something that the Catholic Church has long taught about interpreting and understanding Scripture. So,
yeah, I think maybe one good way to kind of back that up, Doctor, is there are two creation accounts, and are they contradictory? Are they complementary? And so there's more. And Tammy, thank you for the call. God bless you. I'm glad you're a born-again Christian. So are we as Catholics. We're so blessed to all be born again in Christ. And we appreciate you listening to the program here on Catholic Answers Live. But we had an off-air note from Gary in Jackson, Mississippi, Dan, that we might want to probably wrap up the program on here this hour. He says, I don't think it's been made clear that Catholics are not required to believe in evolution. So how do you, what do you say to Catholics with regard to this whole question? Well, what we're required to believe, what we're not required to believe, what would you say?
I'd say when it comes to scientific theories and scientific questions, what Catholics are required to do is to use their God-given reason to understand, the science as best they can, and so that's sort of the requirement, that faith and reason are not in conflict. So, the idea that look at the science, understand about evolution, about the origin of the universe, and so forth, and where you study that in a humble way with right reason, it should lead you to an understanding of God's creation. And from my perspective, when you look at evolution, it seems to be a very rational and reasonable position. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that that's true. And therefore, then how does that then fit with the other truths that God has revealed to us, not only in his creation, but in Scripture?
Right. Well, before we wrap up, we got about a minute and a half or so. I'd love to have you give a little bit more information about this video series that you have been a part of with the Magis Center, The Purposeful Universe. What is it again, and where can people find more information about it?
Yeah, once again, the video series is a series of videos addressing some of the major scientific issues that people struggle with. How do we integrate, evolution, understanding of neuroscience, understanding of modern physics? How do we integrate that with our faith? How does it lead us towards God, and how might it suggest that there's purpose behind the universe? And you can find the first video in that series out if you go to The Purposeful Universe and just Google that. Magis Center, Purposeful Universe, and you'll be able to find the video and a podcast and some other materials there about the first one.
All right, and the Magis Center is spelled M-A-G-I-S. If I'm not mistaken, I took 2 years of Latin at Steubenville, Doctor, so I think that means mother, doesn't it? Or teacher, mother, or teacher, yeah. teacher, right?
Yeah.
Mater, of course, is mother. What I mean, Sister Maria Regina Pachis would be slapping my wrist with a ruler right now.
Yes.
It means teacher, of course. Well, very good. And anything you want to update us on? Actually, you and I were talking briefly before the hour started about how the semester's going at Steubenville. You got the students there, and you guys are trying to kind of keep things going as much close to normal as possible, I guess, huh?
Yeah, it's been a very unusual time, but it's just been great to have the students back here this semester, and we've made it almost to the end of the semester, and and it's just there's nothing to substitute in-person education to be with students in the classroom, talking to them and engaging them in conversation and so forth. So, just as an educator, it's such a delight to be in person, and hopefully we continue throughout the rest of the semester and into next semester too, without getting shut down.
Yeah, praise God. Thanks for what you're doing, and please keep up the good work there at Franciscan University. Dr. Daniel Keebler, can people find you anywhere online, a website, or the work that you're doing or anything?
Yeah, just on the Franciscan University website. If you look on there, you can find my work, and some of it is on the Purposeful Universe website there.
Okay, if I'm not mistaken, it's franciscan.edu. I think that is the web address. All right, Dr. Daniel Keebler, thank you so much. Been great working with you. Great, had a good pleasure this hour. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. It's been great talking with you.
All right. ThePurposefulUniverse.com is where you can find more information about that video series by the Magis Center. Hour number 2, straight ahead, we're going to talk about Jesus in your marriage. All right, it's not an apologetics course about marriage or anything like that. It's practical stuff. I mean, if you're a married man, a married woman, you're going to want to tune in, and you may want to call in. Start calling now, 888-318-7884. Dr. Edward Shree and his wife Beth will join us again to talk about Jesus in your marriage. Stick around. Hello and welcome to hour number 2 of this Friday of Catholic Answers Live. I am Jerry Usher, blessed to be in for Cy Kellett today, who always does such a great job. These are big shoes to fill, but I'm honored to be given the opportunity. And we're grateful that you are with us here this hour of the program, hour number 2, as we talk about Jesus in your marriage. Okay, so that is something we're going to unpack with Dr. Edward Sri and his wife Beth. But we want to give you the phone number and invite you to call in with your questions at 888-318-7884, 888-318-7884. Maybe you were married in the church and since then have not really included Jesus in your marriage on the concrete level. Maybe you were not married in the church. Maybe one of you is Catholic, one is not. One's a Christian, one is not. You want to know, just some practical ways to really cement that bond of marriage that you have by including Jesus in it. As Fulton Sheen said, 3 to get married. He wrote a book on that. It's the husband, the wife, and Jesus, and that's what we're talking about this hour. With your participation, again, at 888-318-7884. Edward and Beth Sri have been married 21 years and are blessed with 8 children. Edward is a theologian, international Catholic speaker, and author of several best-selling books, including Men, Women, and the Mystery of Love. He's the host of the All Things Catholic podcast, and he leads Rome and Holy Land pilgrimages and serves as Focus, Fellowship of Catholic University Students, Vice President of Formation. Now, in addition to serving as the CEO of the Sri household, Beth enjoys leading women's groups, mentoring young moms, running, and reading Jane Austen. And you can connect with each of them on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and visit their websites, edwardsri.com, and Beth's is borntodothis.org. Ed and Beth, thank you so much for joining us here this hour of the program.
Thanks so much for having us.
Very great to be here.
Boy, I'm so glad we're doing this topic and doing it from the angle that we are. Obviously, Catholic Answers Live is known for apologetics, and we could talk about, the biblical, understanding of the sacrament and apologetics and all of that. But I know you wanted to talk about this from a very concrete level. And so I want to invite people who are listening to call in. And if you're wondering about how to include Jesus in your marriage, how to talk to your spouse about the faith, how to be really united in Christ, how to pray together, how to read scripture together, how to teach your kids the importance of having Jesus in your lives. It's 888-318-7884. And Edward and Beth, where I want to start is talking about the realities of marriage. We hear about, of course, the beauty of the sacrament and John Paul II's theology of the body, and all of that was just very, very beautiful. But then you get married and you're like, wow, this is really hard. So talk about marriage. Let's start off with that.
Yeah, I've taught many classes on theology of the body, theology of marriage, and so I love it. It's all beautiful, but the reality of actually living day to day and being challenged to grow in love, that reality is a whole different experience. It reminds me of a friend of mine when he got married. He was his best man came to see him back in the sacristy. So this is shortly before the wedding. And the best man had been married for many years, and he's looking at my friend who's the groom, and the best man walks in, looks at the groom, and just starts laughing at the groom. And then the groom says, what are you laughing at? What's so funny? And then the best man says, that's just it. You don't know.
No idea.
You have no idea what you're really entering into. Even the best marriage prep program can't really prepare you for all that's going to happen in marriage and the wonderful, beautiful ways, but also challenging ways that God is calling us to grow and to become more and more like Him.
And it really is on-the-job training, right? I mean, you don't practice being married, right? You get married and then you're doing it. You're doing it day in and day out. Morning, noon, and night. It's just, it's a whole thing you enter into that will shape you. I like to say that walking down the aisle is not the finish line. I know a lot of young women who dream about their wedding day and finally I can find the one and we can be together forever. But I'm a distance runner. And that altar, that exchange of rings, that is your starting line. The finish is hopefully when you're both in heaven, right? But it's the starting line of a marathon that will challenge you and build you and make you into a whole new person because you're united to another person with our Lord. It really, 21 years in, I'm just so grateful for the way that that Jesus in our marriage through Ted and with our children has just worn me down in a good way. It's like exposed me for who I am and who I'm meant to be. It's really fabulous.
Yeah, I was just going to share. There's a quote from JP2 that really inspires us along these lines. He once said that, this idea that God calls us to marriage, he calls this couple to marriage. It's beautiful to think about that. Yeah, that God really had a plan, and he wanted Beth and Edward to come together in marriage, and it's wonderful. But that same God, he says, that calls a couple to marriage continues to call the couple in marriage, in their marriage, in the daily difficulties, circumstances, challenges, and trials that come up in ordinary daily married life. And I think that's very beautiful to remember that in marriage, there's a lot of circumstances, trials, and difficulties, marriage and family life, just marriage alone. Then when kids come, there's a whole other level.
It's like multiplies exponentially.
But to see all of those things, those times when we're completely exhausted, the times when like all the children are having a breakdown at the same moment, or the times when you feel your spouse doesn't appreciate you or isn't listening, or your spouse hurts you, like those moments, you can look at them as just frustrating moments. You can look at them as this is just this has to change. But what JP2 is saying is no. We have to see this is where Jesus is calling us right there. That same God that called the couple to marriage, he's calling us right at that moment. He's calling us to love and stretch our hearts and to love like him. And that's hard. I'm exhausted. I don't want to take care of the baby here. I'm frustrated. Why does this kid keep having a breakdown? Or
why is it so loud? That's my thing this week. Like, how is it so loud when there's 3 kids home out of 8? Like, these are the things that we're called to just find our peace and work with it and just go. Just do it. Don't sit and mumble and grumble and complain. Like, be proactive and go at it.
Well, you've given our listeners a lot of things to call in and talk about right now, and the number is 888-318-7884. Ted and Beth Sri are with us this hour on the program, and if you're in a if you're married, you have kids, and like Beth was saying, or Ted was saying, they all have a meltdown at the same time. Maybe you're wondering how to hold that together, how to maybe divide up the quote unquote labor. Who's going to take care of what when? How do you bring Jesus into your marriage? So very, very important to do that. And you can call and ask any question along these lines that you want at 888-318-7884. Ted and Beth, how does a person's upbringing affect their marriage? People come from all different kinds of backgrounds, and sometimes a couple might not even realize the vast differences in their upbringings until after the wedding and they're living together and starting a family.
Yeah, we go into our marriages thinking, oh, yeah, we're different, and, her differences are kind of cute, and we're all going to get wrong. It's all going to be great. And then you actually get into it, it's like, this is really hard.
You just take things for granted that, well, I saw my mom and dad do this, so of course, that's how marriage is, right? And so, of course, my husband or my wife will know that, right? But that's not always the case at all.
Yeah, I remind of a good friend of mine. He came from a very quiet family. They're a family of introverts, and he married a very loud, boisterous Irish girl from a loud Irish family. So in the Irish family that the wife was in, they're very loud and they're very expressive, and they fight all the time, and then they may be yelling at the top of their lungs, and then 5 seconds later they're hugging each other and smiling and laughing, and it's just they just all the emotions are out there on the table. That's just what she grew up with. He grew up around the table, very quiet, introverted, and they say, how's the weather? It's okay. And, no one would ever disagree on anything. Right. So imagine this couple coming together, like something goes on in the marriage, and all of a sudden she's like, why did that happen? And he's thinking, oh no, oh my goodness, she's yelling. Are we going to get a divorce? What does this mean? And he's panicking. And then she's like, why is he so quiet? How come he's not talking? Doesn't he care? Doesn't he love me? He's just bottling everything up inside. He must be really mad at me. And you could tell in those moments there, like there's differences that come into play. And in a moment like that, many couples could have an attitude of, well, you just need to change. You need to stop being so loud, or she needs to say, or she's going to say to herself, well, you just need to be more open. And I think that's what we often do when we come into our marriages. I like to say we come into our marriages singing that old Billy Joel song. Remember? Don't go changing to try to. I love you just the way you are, and I love you with all your faults and weaknesses. Yeah. And then about, 7 months or 7 years into your marriage, you're like, you're not singing that song anymore. Yeah. You're singing Bon Jovi. You give love a bad name. And this is really frustrating me. And you need to change, And we treat our spouse kind of like we do like a TV show. We have a remote control and a commercial comes on. It's like change. All right. The show is boring. Change. I want my spouse to change. What was beautiful in this couple, and I'd share that because they really are a great Catholic couple, but they learned to work together. And he came to see that, she's expressive, and I don't have to interpret expressive and loud and expressing emotion as I hate you, I'm really, really mad at you, and I need to be able to share a bit myself and come out of my shell a little bit and let her know what I'm thinking. And she needed to also go, okay, I sometimes need to give him time to process. He's internal, he's introvert, he needs time to think it through. And I can say we've had that in our own marriage.
Yeah. I think it's important, though, to give people the space to screw up, mess up, because you're not going to come in and get it all perfectly. And that's the beauty of it. You're not going to come in and nail it and get 100% A+ in your marriage right off the bat. Maybe even ever, let's be honest. but you have to give and take and be very succinct and express things, but also process and just work through it. And it's that working through it that will bring greater unity, and that working through it that will allow you to finally understand each other and figure out what works in your marriage. And it can be really powerful, but it takes time. Like I know my husband is very much like, he needs a lot of prep, right, Ted? You need a lot of preparation for new things.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. He's very logical, very rationally oriented.
Like there's a purchase being made, or we're going to change the plan.
So when I like, for instance, buying the house that we live in now, when I saw it on the market, I had to say, honey, I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to listen and not say anything. Just take it in. And he was like, oh, okay. And this was on the phone, mind you. And I've never pulled this before.
Okay, wait. You got to get the background here, Jerry, though. Here's the background. So we moved from Kansas to Colorado 14 years ago.
Right.
So we moved the whole family, got into the house. We were still unpacking. It's still 6 months.
We had been there 9 months. We'd had a baby.
9 months, a new baby, a new job, and we still hadn't finished unpacking. And then I'm on a trip to Minnesota, and she calls me and says, do you want to move again?
No, I said, please listen to this.
No,
and you did. And I said, I want to move down the street. What? No, crazy?
She did. And because she knew that I'm different, that she's like, she can more spontaneously move.
I had to prepare him to hear that. And that was only after how long have we been married? Like 10 years at that point. Not even. We had been married 6 years. And I had to prepare him for, I have something new, and here it is. But that took time. That took lots of error to come to that point.
And we have an else.
We're going to take a quick pause here. Dr. Edward Sri and his wife Beth are with us here on the program. And you can join Joanna on a phone line right now. Justin called in as well. 888-318-7884. We are talking this hour about Jesus in your marriage, and that is a key ingredient, Jesus being a central part of your relationship. If that's not the case for you right now, maybe you're concerned about your marriage right now. Maybe your spouse is just simply not open to going to church or praying together or including Jesus in any way. You can certainly give us a call. They would give you great advice on how to really bolster that relationship with the presence of Jesus central to your marriage. 888-318-7884. We're going to get right back to the discussion. But first, I want to mention a free ebook from Catholic Answers. They are really getting known for these free ebooks and great deals on all sorts of other things. And, it's been a really, really awful year in many ways. It's been a blessed year. It's been a year of opportunities for many of us. But some people, a lot of people actually, are trying to figure out, how do I navigate this? How do I get through this? How do I maintain my peace and my sanity? Well, according to this free ebook, the answer is prayer, prayer, prayer. It's our best weapon against evil, and you can learn more about prayer with a very special free ebook from our very own Father Hugh Barber and Father Sebastian Walsh. Just go to shop.catholic.com, download your free copy of the ebook. It's called 20 Answers Prayer. It's part of the 20 Answers series, very great series from Catholic Answers, at shop.catholic.com. Just look for the button at the top of the page, and you will find it, and you can download your free copy of this great ebook. Be right back.
Miss a show? Make sure to catch up by downloading the podcast, available online at Catholic.com.
Underwriting for Catholic Answers Live is provided by Real Estate for Life. Real Estate for Life connects homebuyers and sellers to real estate agents while supporting pro-life organizations. On the web at realestateforlife.org.
The Aquinas Writing Advantage program is part of Homeschool Connections' set of online courses for your Catholic homeschool. Homeschool Connections' website is homeschoolconnections.com.
There are a lot of ways to pray. When I was in the evangelical world, we didn't like rote prayers that the Catholics prayed. Nah, we wanted to say our own prayers. We thought that it was coming more from the heart. Any kind of prayer, whether it comes from the heart and is a loose connection of words, or it is a prayer that the church has had for centuries, is good because it is prayer.
Happy Friday afternoon to you. It is the first Friday of the month, so maybe you have been to Mass, maybe you prayed your Rosary, your Divine Mercy Chaplet, maybe you still have services that you're going to be attending here. We always love to honor the Passion and Death of our Lord Jesus Christ on Fridays, but especially on the first Friday. So please keep that in mind. Let's be especially in prayer for the state of our nation, the future of our nation, that God's will be done, and that people all get along and things are settled in a reasonable and especially, like I said, a godly way. This hour, we're talking about Jesus in your marriage with Ted and Beth Sri, and we're going to start your phone calls with Joanna in Boston, who is watching the program on Facebook Live. Hi, Joanna. Welcome.
Mr. and Mrs. Sri, thank you for your witness and sharing your experiences. It's very consoling that you're both Catholic and you still have arguments, because I always imagine that if my husband once he converts, he's going to be perfect. So I'm calling actually to ask about my husband of 20 years. We have 3 kids. We're married in a Catholic church, but he is agnostic / pagan, I would say. And of course, like you were saying, I didn't discover all that, the day we were getting married. It slowly unraveled as we were having kids, and I've been able to take kids to church and baptize, communion, and confirm them. But when I want to include Jesus in our daily prayer with my husband, or even before meals, it's a struggle. He would pray a prayer that is agnostic and paganistic, and I would like to pray in the name of Jesus. And so the prayer before meal, for example, is that I say my prayer, he says his prayer, and our kids are in the middle and they pray both. But there is this dissonance, and it's so visible. And I don't know how to take that beyond what we're doing.
Can I ask, how is your friendship with your husband?
Say that again, please.
How is your friendship with your husband? How do you feel like, apart from this issue, what's your relationship like?
It's there. It's distant, I would say, and a lot of it is given the differences of on faith.
Okay. Yeah. So, do you have any thoughts here, honey?
I mean, that's such a hard situation. I mean, honestly, I think just pray and fast for your husband is probably going to be key. I mean, you can only talk to him so much about this issue, and it reminds me of that St. Monica quote. And I don't know how often you do talk to him about it, I know a woman's temptation would often be to talk a lot about you need to convert and don't you see and this would be so much better and Jesus loves you. You know what I mean? Kind of almost nag with it. Again, I'm not saying that is your situation at all. But there's a St. Monica quote where I think it was a priest that told her,
Ambrose,
when she was really struggling with her son, Augustine, who would not convert and was living a pagan lifestyle. And he said to her, Monica, you need to talk to God more about Augustine and less to Augustine about God. And we all know how that story ended up, right? Eventually, we get Augustine converted. We get St. Augustine, Doctor of the Church. And Monica died shortly after his conversion, after many tears, after many prayers, after many sacrifices on his behalf within her home, and even her husband too. I believe.
Yeah, that's the key. Her husband too. I think it relates very much here is converted because of her witness, because of her constant faithfulness to him, the kindness, and he eventually just saw something. He was a pretty rough guy and did a lot of bad things. So, but he eventually just saw her witness of love, kindness, patience, forgiveness. So I would, when questions come up, to answer them, of course, but I think you're more likely to win his heart from two things, what Beth said earlier, just the prayer and fasting and the sacrifices, but I then adding on the example of Monica, of just her own kindness and patience and gentleness, sacrifice, service, that if he really sees like there's this great love that God can use that and work through that more than he can through just nice apologetic arguments many times. So we'll pray for you, and it's a very difficult situation, so you'll be in our prayers this evening in particular.
Okay, Joanna?
Thank you.
Yeah, we will definitely be praying for you. Thanks for the call. And I'm glad you referenced that. I've heard that quote as well. Talk less to Augustine about God and more to God about Augustine or something like that. But I really do believe what you both just said, and I'd love you to expound upon this. If a spouse has a husband or a wife who is not practicing faith, maybe even antagonistic toward it, smile, serve them, love them. Let your prayer be, vertical versus so much horizontal stuff. Talk about how, if you just really beseech the Lord, God, nobody wants their relationship to be happier and more firm than God does, right? So talk about the importance of just really you going to God, and then just with the spouse or the family member, just really serving in a loving, joyful kind of way.
Amen.
I really appreciate your feedback.
Catholic Answers Live, 888-318-7884. If you'd like to get on this hour of the program, we were talking about Jesus in your marriage. And Ted and Beth, going back to what you were talking about, we mentioned that the people have different upbringings and so forth, and that might cause some things to happen after the marriage. You're discovering things about your spouse and so forth. For me, that would seem to mean that communication is really so vitally important that a husband and a wife have take every opportunity that they can to talk things through. And when something arises that seems to be a problem, sit down and say, all right, let's have cool heads about this and really communicate and talk this through. Is that am I right on? Is that important?
Yeah, definitely. We don't always exemplify it. I think that's a great point just to make, and the previous caller kind of alluded to this. Sometimes people could think, Jerry, you have a radio show, and here I am, I'm a theologian, and, so that we must just have the most impeccable, Christian lives and marriages. Like, Dr. Sri and Wesley probably talk about theology, the body around the dinner table and all that. Like, that is not the case. We are in the messiness of married life, just like the rest of you. We're all struggling together. In fact, we love learning from many couples who are older and wiser all the time, because we need all the help we can get. But on that point that you mentioned, Jerry, about like when there are those heated moments, I want to share a great quote that John Paul II once said. It's very beautiful. He writes about this in his book, Love and Responsibility. He says, like, when we started to notice our beloved's faults, we notice their weaknesses, even when they hurt us, like, what do we do at that moment? He says that's when love is tested the most. That's what I'm really like. Do I really love this person? Like, not because, we often think love is all those feelings, we just fall in love and all these warm feelings. This is great. But the reality is that, love is not about the feelings. The definition of love in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, quoting the great Thomas Aquinas, is to will the good of the other. It's well beyond those feelings. So there's many seasons in life where you don't have all those feelings. Maybe you do have feelings, but they're the kind of feelings you need to bring to confession.
Right.
And JP2 says that's when love is tested the most.
Yeah.
What do you do?
All right, hold on there on that thought. Yeah, it reminds me of another song. See, being a former disc jockey, you're cursed because there's a song in everything like Foreigner. I want to know what love is. I want you to show me. Well, we're talking about love and marriage, and including Jesus at the center of your marriage. Join us in this conversation with Ted and Beth Sri at 888-318-7884. We're coming right back.
Catholic Answers Live.
If you spend any time on Twitter, Facebook, or mainstream media, you're probably familiar with the litany of slogans that skeptics employ to rescue you from the foolish belief that God exists. The constant onslaught seems to leave people with the idea that they have no alternative but to embrace atheism. How can a Christian respond? In One Less God Than You, John DeRosa breaks down 20 of the most common atheist challenges and shows you how to craft effective answers. Atheism is more aggressive and widespread than ever. Read One Less God Than You and prepare yourself to respond with the joyful truth that God is real. To get your copy of One Less God Than You, visit shop.catholic.com today or ask for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
To many people, purgatory is a fantasy, or worse, a wicked lie invented by the church. But I'm here to tell you that purgatory is fact, not fiction. In my new book, Purgatory is for Real, I'll give you the evidence and reasoning to help you understand this controversial doctrine and demonstrate how it's actually a sign of God's love and mercy. To get your copy of Purgatory is for Real, visit shop.catholic.com today or ask for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Have you subscribed to the Catholic Answers Radio Club newsletter? This is Catholic Answers Live host Cy Kellett, and I want to tell you about our new weekly newsletter full of behind-the-scenes information and facts you need to know about the show. It's easy to sign up. Just visit CatholicAnswersLive.com and look for the newsletter sign-up box on the front of the page. It's a great way to keep up to date with what's happening with the show and see what's coming in the days ahead, delivered weekly into your inbox. Sign up today for the Catholic Answers Radio Club newsletter and see what you've been missing. Go to CatholicAnswersLive.com.
All right, moving toward the end of a Friday here, the first Friday of the month, and it's I was going to say Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, but I was going to tell you about that. It's actually Catholic Answers Live. I got to remember which program I'm on, but Debbie Georgiani and I have Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on Monday through Friday at noon Eastern on many of these same EWTN stations, and also a replay of the show at midnight Eastern, so we hope that you can join us. We talk about really everyday life stuff that we're discussing this hour with Dr. Edward and Beth Sri. They are talking about Jesus in your marriage, 888-318-7884 if you'd like to join us. Talking about really where the rubber hits the road, you have that wedding day and then all of a sudden, okay, now living together and having a life together and being united and bringing Jesus into it, that's where it all kind of gets started right there. So Ted and Beth, there was an off-air question from Justin. He is in Hall, Iowa, and he is getting married in 3 weeks. Congratulations, Justin. And he wants to know, do you have any tips for how to make Jesus the center of our relationship?
That's a great question. I mean, obviously praying is key, because if you're not getting it from above, if you're not opening yourself up to the graces, then you don't have much to offer your spouse. That I think is crucial. And that generally, yes, you can pray together, and that's wonderful and necessary. But I would say even your own personal prayer is foundational, because your relationship is with our Lord, with Jesus, is what you're going to be offering to your spouse.
I amen to that. I really think that's important. A lot of people talk about, praying together as a couple. Yeah, right. That's great. Do that. Pray as a family, yes. But man, you really need to have your personal prayer time. You need to have at least 20, 30 minutes a day for you and Jesus. And that's not just saying the rosary. I'm talking about time where you're doing maybe Lectio Divina or Ignatian meditation, whatever form of, Catholic traditional prayer you use, being in front of the Blessed Sacrament. Like that's where you're able to give your spouse so much more than just you.
Yeah.
I often tell the story about my wife. So a few years ago, when she was drinking less coffee than she is now, but her commitment to prayer always began the night before. And so what she would do is she would go downstairs before she'd go to bed and make a cup of coffee, and she'd put in this, thermos, and put the thermos next to the bedstand.
The thermos that was supposed to keep the coffee hot for 12 hours, but did not.
So she would do it, and then what happens is when she gets up in the morning, she drops to her knees, she does her morning offering, and then she would open up the windows. We have a beautiful view of the Rocky Mountains here in Colorado.
I would chug that coffee and stare at my prayer book, trying to coherently form a prayer to our Lord and meet him there until the caffeine took effect, and then I could legitimately pray.
But she did her prayer right in the morning. And why did she make the coffee the night before? It's because in a household of 8 children, if she goes downstairs, she's never coming back up.
It's game
She will
over.
never get the prayer time. As a couple, this was important that I from very early on to make sure that Beth had time for prayer and make sure I got time for prayer. So sometimes I would get up early and take care of the baby so she could go pray in those early days. And so those are like the creative things to do to really make sure each individual spouse is getting that time. Why? Because I know she'd made that commitment to prayer, because when she walks downstairs, she wants to give me and she wants to give the children much more than herself. And she's got a lot to offer, but she knows she can give us so much more if she's really united with Jesus. The same thing in my own life. And so I think amen to that. That's a crucial thing.
Yeah.
Make sure you have time for prayer and your spouse has time for prayer, that you're getting spiritually tanked up each day. One other advice I'll just give you is just know marriage will get hard. And there will be a dark night of marriage will come.
And it doesn't mean that you yourself are faulty. That is exactly what marriage is designed for, is to be hard, to challenge you. It's not meaning that you and your wife are the problem.
Yeah, this is actually that's exactly what marriage is for. Marriage is a school of love, and this it's a hard school. It's demanding.
Yes.
You're not getting easy A's. Not everyone gets a trophy in this school.
Yes.
And it is going to stretch you. It's so demanding. And there'll be times, really, there'll be seasons in life where you may just be wondering, how did we get here? What happened?
Mm-hmm.
Where are we going? And you'll be thinking, no one else suffers like we do. Well, that's not true. We've all gone through it. But it's right there in those dark moments that Jesus is coming to do something new and beautiful in your life. Pope Benedict once said that, that initial love, that spark of attraction and romance that we bring to our marriages, it's beautiful, it's wonderful, it's what draws a couple together, but it doesn't last. It's not going to last. Jesus wants to come in and make something new. It's kind of like that first wine at Cana. That first wine at Cana was wonderful. Everyone loved it, but it ran out. It did not last. But Jesus came in and created something so much better, a much better wine, and one that would never run out. And that's what he wants to do in our marriages. He wants to take that initial love that you have right now for your spouse to be, your fiance there, and it's wonderful, it's beautiful, it brought you together, but that's not the greatest love. That's just stage 1 love. Mm-hmm. Jesus wants to bring you to the heights of holy love, and it's going to be really hard and demanding. But if when you get those moments where you're feeling like, where's the love? What happened? Know that that's the moment Jesus is meeting you. So you're not even going to be aware of this for the next several months, probably not the next several years, maybe not for the next several kids, God bless, if you're blessed with children. But just keep that in mind. When that happens, that's the number one moment that Jesus is wanting to take your love deeper. It's not a sign that everything's going wrong. It's a sign that marriage is working.
And in that moment, it's important to stay in it, to stay in that moment, not to numb, not to run away, not to push the eject button, but to stay in the moment, to pursue whatever the big question mark is, to figure it out with our Lord in prayer, with your wife in talking it out. Maybe even you need more help than that. Maybe you need a priest or a therapist to sit down and help you sort through a lot of things. That is okay. That's actually quite commendable to take it to somebody else. There's no shame in that whatsoever.
Well, that is all beautiful advice. Thank you, Justin, for your question from Iowa. Many, many blessings to you in your marriage and your partnership with your wife, and may God bless you, as I said, with many, many kids. I guess Ted and Beth, the only other thing I would add is for Justin to pick a best man who's going to go up to him 15 minutes before the wedding and laugh at him, right?
That's right.
Remind him what he's doing.
All right, we're going to go to Julia in the state of Washington, my home state, listening on the Catholic Answers Live app. Hi, Julia. Welcome.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call. I heard a previous caller it's kind of a similar situation I was in. My husband was a cop for 13 years, and he became very numb to emotions. So when I would voice something, he would pretty much ignore it. So what I would do is I would go into our laundry room, and because no one bugs me there, I would go and I would pray, and I would cry to God, and just me and God. And then one specific occasion, I was like, God, he's such a jerk. He's such a jerk. What do I do? Sorry, it gets me all choked up. But so I'm putting away, like 15 minutes later, I'm putting away laundry in my boys' room. My husband comes in and says verbatim, honey, I'm sorry for being such a jerk. Wow. There's more, but I got to catch my breath. It was just like God hears our prayers in that instant. And if we take that moment to stop and say, God, give me grace. God, don't let me go off on my husband. I'm Italian, so I have quite a temper. So I really, and, we've been married 22 years now. And it's like we have 6 kids, Catholic homeschool, the work. And we have 4 left at home. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But that was one thing that happened. And then also just when she was asking about praying and her husband was atheist or agnostic. So what I did with my husband, because I married Catholic, but he wasn't as strong as I am because I'm a convert. And I believe in family prayer every night. So he didn't want to do it. So I did it with the kids. I had their Bible. I had them read it. I had, them do it. And pretty soon, what happened? They were like, Dad, why aren't you praying with us? So he, out of guilt, he started praying with us. And now, 22 years later, he leads it. But, those are the things that, I've experienced. I mean, there's many, many more, but, that's kind of what I wanted to say. And then, after 7 years of fasting and praying the rosary, offering it up, he is no longer a cop, and we have a home business now we've had for 11 years. So he's home with, all the kids through their growing up and stuff. So, in a nutshell, just if you can take that moment, and like I said, it's so difficult, but take that breath and say, God, give me grace. God, what do I do? And then he gives you that spirit. He tells you what to do. And for me, again, being Italian, I'm very stubborn, and German too, half and half. So it's like, then I have to listen. Then I have to say, okay, Julie, you need to apologize this time. And that's very difficult, but man, it saves so many arguments,
Oh, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's such a testimony to the fact that there's no quick fix. It's time after time, it's year after year, it's prayer after prayer, wondering, is it ever going to change? But you stuck with it. I mean, Julia, you're my hero here in your perseverance and your faithfulness to it. Thank you so much for calling in and sharing, because that does give us all hope that we can persevere and continue and see fruit. Yeah. You got to see the fruit. How awesome is that?
Yeah, Julia, what I'm really moved by in your story is your great love for God and for your husband in moments when he was not able to love you. Mm-hmm. I've been blessed to get to know a number of people that work in kind of emergency services, police force, firemen, and it is a really hard life, and many times, and they're suffering a lot. I'm sure, he wasn't treating you well, but I'm sure, you know the story more than I do, of course, but I'm sure he was suffering, and God looks upon him with great compassion for the suffering he's had to face, but through his ordeals as being a cop and all. And that's an encouragement to everybody. You may be in a really dark situation in your marriage and wondering, my spouse will never change. That's the devil. The devil is telling you that. That is not from God. God can always work miracles. He can always do what we think is impossible. And also, the other thing is God sees the whole person's heart. We often just feel the brunt of it, going, oh, why is he acting this way? Why am I being treated this way? And it helps us to look at compassion and going, there must be something that he's deeply wounded by too.
Right.
And your heart going out in prayer, and you're fasting, you're sacrificing for him, but pouring out to God, saying, God, why is he doing this? But you turn to God with that. You didn't turn to Instagram with that,
Or you didn't lash out right back at him,
And God really, really rewarded your faithfulness. And that's the love that Jesus has for us. When Jesus was on Good Friday, I'm sure he felt like the Israelites were numb to him. The Israelites didn't treat him well. Yeah. They were like jerks to him. Spitting at him, mocking him. He came to save them. But that's what marriage does. And there's always seasons in life where one spouse or the other is not able to give the love, and that's going to happen. Will we still love like Jesus, though? And that's what the marriage is, the school of love. So thank you, Julia. Thank you.
Anything else, Julia?
Time for one more?
Sure,
yeah,
go ahead.
Is there time for me to share one more?
Yeah, please feel free to do so, yeah.
And this is pretty deep and dark, but my husband, when he was a cop, drove around 3 days with a gun to his head, wanting to commit suicide because he was so persecuted for having so many children and so made fun of it. And I said, you can't do this. We're following the teachings of the faith, and we will be rewarded. And sorry, it's just a lot, But I did an emergency novena to St. Joseph, and I just basically said, he's the patron of fathers. And I said, whatever God's will be, I will not. He wanted to get a vasectomy after our fifth child because he was so persecuted at his work. They called us the Griswolds, and, it was every day, day after day after day after day. And it just wore him down. So, I just knew in my heart, it's like no matter what he chooses, that's not God's will, that's his will. But that emergency novena to St. Joseph, it was, I just had to trust God. I mean, what else can you do in a situation like that? There's no other choice. God will always set you free. And I had a boyfriend who had committed suicide. We dated all, through our junior high and high school years. So it was quite a deep fear of mine that he might actually do it. But through that, I knew that it was not my fault. It would never be my fault. And it was his choice if he did that. But by the grace of God and, fasting, prayer, novenas, I mean, these are our tools. This is our strength. This is our power. When we feel powerless, he's got it all, and he's given it to us all. So, I wanted to share that for people who think there's no hope. There's always hope because he created us. How can there not be hope?
Yeah, Julia, you just said what I was going to say. There were many reasons why God allowed you and your husband to go through all of this, but one of them is your participation in this program today. You have just imparted hope to, I'm sure, countless hopeless people, people who are wondering, is God present? Is he hearing their prayers? Is he gonna strengthen our marriage, restore our marriage? So God bless you, Julia. Thank you so much for all that you brought to the program today. We appreciate it, and our prayers and gratitude go with you. Thank you for the call, and we got to take another very quick short break here. But Julia mentioned the prayers to St. Joseph, and Ted and Beth, I know you're both probably very familiar with Father Donald Calloway's consecration to St. Joseph, which I cannot encourage people enough to participate in. We know a lot about consecration to Jesus through Mary and our devotion to Our Lady and her role in our lives, and all of that is just so mightily powerful. But Father Donald Calloway, as you both know, believes this is St. Joseph's moment in the history of the world and in the history of the church. So for those of you who have not gotten a hold of that book and made your consecration to St. Joseph, please do. I did it this past year. I made the consecration prayer on Father's Day. I wanted to do that for St. Joseph. And so please look that book up. It may be available at Catholic Answers. If not, find it somewhere. It's Consecration to St. Joseph by Father Donald Calloway. We'll get right back to our conversation with Ted and Beth Sri in just a minute. Just have to remind you, about Catholic Answers Tri-Day sale, Black Tri-Day. You hear about Black Friday. This weekend, it is a 3-day Black Tri-Day sale, and the main point is we want you to maybe get a jump start on your holiday giving. Mail is slowed down a little bit. There's supply chain issues and so forth. And also we want to make sure that you get gifts for those you love that are going to build up their faith and draw them closer to God and to salvation. And so today, tomorrow, and Sunday, you can save an additional 15% off already discounted prices. Just simply use the promo code BONUS15 when you go to shop.catholic.com. It's BONUS15. You get ebooks, MP3s, CDs, books, DVDs. Even the Catholic Answers School of Apologetics courses are on sale. So go to shop.catholic.com and enter the code BONUS15 for your additional 15% off.
There's only one Catholic Answers Live.
We have a big problem. Our culture is dying, and souls are in danger of being lost. The answer is conversion to Jesus Christ in His church. St. Paul Street Evangelization is a Catholic organization, and we have hundreds of teams spreading the good news throughout the country. But we need your help. The harvest is great, but the laborers are few. Find out more and get involved today at streetevangelization.com. That's streetevangelization.com.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
Once you lose faith, if somebody does something to you and hurts you 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, St. Peter thought 7 was a good number. How often should I forgive my brother, Lord? 7 times? My Lord said, no. 70 times, 7 times a day.
For more information on Mother Angelica, visit Religious Catalog at EWTNRC.com.
Catholic Answers Live on this Friday, ending another week. I'm Jerry Usher in for Cy Kellett, who will be back on Monday. Always a blessing to be back on this program, which I actually hosted from its inception in 1998 until about 2009. So it really, truly is. It's kind of, my DNA is in the program, and the program's DNA is in me. So it's great to be with you. And we're talking this hour with Ted and Beth Sri about Jesus in your marriage and the importance of that spiritual bond, the practices of prayer and devotion in your spiritual life and your married life. And Ted and Beth, I would like to actually go back to, how or where people are married. I want to know if this is anything worth discussing. Like, a lot of people want to get these destination weddings, out at these fancy, beautiful places and all of this. And yet, as Catholic Christians, we really believe in the understanding of having a wedding mass and it being in a church and all of that. Can this kind of help to build a more solid foundation based on where and how a couple are married?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're the theologian here.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, where and how you're married, really, that's the foundation. It says a lot, right? And if I'm more interested in, it was a beautiful beach or nice little, scenic background.
Or what kind of pictures we're going to get from it.
Yeah, and even that, yeah. So you may still do it in a church, but all the emphasis is on the dress, the pictures, and all those kinds of things.
The exterior.
Yeah, that says a lot, because the marriage is really based on a sacrament, and something new is being created when it's a sacrament. So when you don't get married in the church, and you just go and find your favorite little chapel or beach or wooded area, whatever your favorite destination spot may be, you're not really joined at the profound level that you can be with the grace of the sacrament. So what happens is, when we talk about marriage as a sacrament, what does that really mean? It means that something new is created that day. When husband and wife exchange their vows and then consummate their marriage, eventually they are joined in a bond that did not exist before. They might have been good friends. They might have said nice words to each other and expressed verbal commitment. But at that moment, God has entered in to that union in a profound way. Something new exists that did not exist before, and it's that marriage bond. Secondly, this marriage bond is a participation in a bigger bond. The bond that Beth and I have in our marriage is a participation in something so much bigger, so much more profound, and that's the love of Jesus for his church. And so Christ laying down his life for the church, that is what marriage is. Beth and I, and all of you who are married, you're just participants in this larger thing of Jesus, the bridegroom, and Christ, and the church is the bride. And that's the model for us. And so now there's this third point, and that is there's a font of grace that is available to me now. And what happens there is that means the life of Jesus, that's what grace is. It's the life of the Son of God, the divine life dwelling within me. But in a particular way here, it's a grace dwelling within me to help me love the way Jesus loves his church. And as we've been talking about all through the show, there's so many times where we need to, the love that we have is just not enough. It's not gonna go the distance. It's not gonna be able to deal with all those difficult times and the trials and all that. We need Jesus to radiate through us. And so when I go get married in a church with the sacrament, you're
going to the fount of the source. You're going straight to the source.
There's a tremendous power that we can tap into. When you go and you might get nice pictures if you just go and do your beach wedding with, you write your own vows or do whatever, which is what people do today. Okay, you might have nice pictures for that and maybe a nice little cool video. Then you can post it on Instagram. Way to go. But that's not going to help you. Those pictures aren't going to help you when you face moments like Julia faced.
Right. And Julia in her laundry room was calling on the graces of the sacramental bond between she and her husband in that moment, in that despair. It was coming straight into her laundry room so that she could go out and love her husband and her family with the love of Christ. And that's why we go right before the Blessed Sacrament. That's why we often have a Mass. That's why we are plugged straight into the heart of the church when we come together and say, I do. And that's why when we come together and say, I do, and we have that bond, then what flows from that bond? Fruitfulness, children, life-giving love.
And we often draw on the grace of the sacraments. Many times I'll pray, Jesus, give me the grace right now to understand, to be patient, to not lose my temper, whatever it is, to love like you love. And I what I have is not enough. It's just not. Right. I need Jesus. And so we really need the sacrament of marriage, not just a secular marriage.
Not as substitute.
Yeah, I love the symbolism of Julia bringing her marital dirty laundry into the laundry room, and it came out, much cleaner, thanks be to God and his beautiful graces. And Ted and Beth, a friend of mine once said, they're very devout Catholics married. They said when a couple do what you two have done here today, you're almost kind of finishing each other's sentences and really complimenting each other very well. They say your sacrament is showing. So I want to congratulate you both and thank you so much for your time on the program today. It has really been, I think, a very eye-opening and very reassuring program for a lot of people. And hopefully it's going to really, impact those who are preparing for marriage or maybe have entered into marriage and are experiencing some strife in their relationship. So God bless you both for all that you've done here on the program today. I know each of you have a website where people can find you. Please feel free to give those out.
Okay, you reach me at edwardsri.com. That's edwardsri.com.
And I'm at borntodothis.org. That's after St. Joan of Arc. I am not afraid. I was born to do this.org.
Beautiful. Thank you both. Thanks. It's been a real pleasure. This was a real joy for me to be able to be hosting for Psi today and to be on with both of you. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
God bless.
All right. There you go. Look at that. How's that for timing? You hear the closing music there. Jerry Usher, I have been in for Cy Kellett today here on Catholic Answers Live. We hope and pray that this broadcast has blessed you. All the archives are available shortly after the shows at Catholic.com. Again, I want to issue an invitation to you to check out my program with Debbie Georgianni, Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, Monday through Friday at noon Eastern on many of these same EWTN stations, and an encore broadcast at midnight Eastern Time, and the show website is take2show.com. Debbie and I have a new book out, Trustful Surrender. It's stories of loved ones who have left the faith. So if you can relate to that, go to EWTNRC.com and check that out. Trustful Surrender. God bless.